That's something that we could have done for that other question is go back to 1993 and say, okay, you're going to get 9 more live-action Star Wars movies, but no one's going to be able to agree on if any of them are good.
Yeah, exactly.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Kazow! Kazam!
And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Share.
Buenos dias.
Today we're going to be doing a Q&A session. We got a bunch of questions that we have not answered over the past few weeks that are now in a giant pile here in our email.
Question. I got something to say. I want the truth.
I am listening.
And we intend to answer them because we answered them probably 3 months ago and we still haven't gotten them on.
These are so good. You guys are so good at sending questions. Look, we've been at this for now nearly 6 years. Right at 6 years. And we've answered a lot of questions. All right. Before that, Chris and Jeremy got a lot of questions about Cinemasins and stuff in general at various events. But you guys keep coming up with good stuff and makes us think about things. And I am down, baby. So, yeah, let's get to answering some questions.
Yeah.
All right, here's the first one, baby. You guys ready?
I'm ready. My body is ready.
What are some of your favorite unscripted moments that made it into the movie? This person has 2 examples off the top of their head. The first one is from Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. When they're looking for the hobbitses, and Aragorn kicks a helmet out of frustration. The actor, Viggo Mortensen, actually broke his toe in real life filming that scene. So when he screams in pain and falls to his knees, that is actual legitimate agony and not acting. If anybody's ever broken a toe, you understand
and
how
why
that
was
goes.
the fucking helmet real? Why was it?
Put a fucking plastic fucking helmet on there. Jesus Christ. Make it out of tinfoil.
Exactly.
The other example from this person is Django Unchained. When Leonardo DiCaprio smashes the glass on the table, he actually cuts his hand for real and completely improvs wiping the blood on Kerry Washington's face. Gross, but effective. That was very much a Leo is in character moment. There are plenty more examples. Hell, there's a million in the MCU alone, but I don't want to be like your other listeners and steal all the good examples. Thank you.
Haha,
Thank you.
yes,
Yeah.
but listen, if I'm ever acting on set and you're acting with me and you cut yourself on accident and you wipe your fucking blood on my skin, I'm calling the cops.
Yep.
I'm calling the cops.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, I get it. And she's probably okay with it. I would not be.
Yeah.
Even if it was fucking Leo, I would be like, the fuck are you doing, dude?
What if it were Kristen Stewart? Yeah, caught you, didn't I?
My mic went out for a second.
Yeah.
I couldn't hear what you said.
It's true. It's true. Yes, your mic was
Your
off.
mic went out, so you
but you
couldn't
couldn't hear
hear.
things.
what I
Right.
said.
I said
You
what I
got to
said.
speak up. I'm wearing a towel.
I said. Oh my goodness. This is a good one. The first one that I thought of was the Matt Damon in Saving Private Ryan at the end, where he tells the story about catching the older brother in the barn with, I'm pretty sure the girl's supposed to be ugly. I think he says something like, hit every branch of the ugly tree on her way down.
Right.
They were like making fun of and he's laughing, and that's how sort of he gets an emotional catharsis there, thinking about his brothers in happier times. He improvised that entire fucking thing.
Hold on, the whole speech.
The whole speech, the entire monologue, improvised.
No shit.
Yeah.
I had heard about something that he improv'd, like something about that line or something like that. That's crazy.
No,
because that is the heart of that final act. Yeah, that's crazy.
He just he improv'd it, and he's still young at that point. Just shows the talent he had. The other one that I thought of is nowhere near as long a story to tell, but when they're ripping the hair off of Steve Carell's body in 40-Year-Old Virgin, a lot of the things he yelled were improv, including my favorite moment of the movie when he says, Kelly Clarkson! And Kelly Clarkson has even been asked about this moment, and she finds it funny. But when that movie came out, the timing of that joke was just, I mean, it still works today, thankfully. But yeah, he was, from what I understand, he was experiencing some real experiences there and was allowed to just sort of run his mouth, and they kept the best ones. And it comes in that run, too, where they just start like jump cutting them together, and just screams like, fuck you deserve to die, Kelly Clarkson.
That's so beautiful, because Paul Rudd, of course, is like just a genius improv person, as is Seth Rogen at that point. But I think at one point he's like, you look like a jack-o'-lantern or something like that. And then there's the point where Steve Carell, because I guess the waxer, I don't know if she's an actor or like an actual waxer, but she's laughing. I don't know if she's laughing at them, like being the way they are, or just laughing as the character. But he looks at her, and you can see real vitriol in his eyes. He's like, why are you laughing, you fucking bitch? And she continues to laugh. It's so great.
He goes, it's not a good look for me.
He's got blood.
And Paul Rudd goes, you look like a man-o'-lantern.
Man-o'-lantern, that's what it is. Yeah.
Yep.
I love that movie.
So there's a few that I thought of. The Kurt Russell smashing the priceless guitar, not knowing it was a priceless guitar, in Hateful Eight. It's funny to me. I don't know how does that happen? How do you give Kurt Russell a priceless guitar and and tell him, you got to be careful with this?
And how do you not have the budget to have the prop master make an authentic? Why did you even need, like, the Martin Guitar Company is still pissed, and they're never going to get over it, because that was one of the oldest guitars they had. And like, why would you even need that for authenticity's sake? God, it's just so dangerous. It's like we're like that Jamie Foxx violin on the street guy didn't use a Stradivarius.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
right.
What was that movie called?
I don't remember.
Was it Robert Downey Jr.?
Soloist?
Wasn't Robert Downey Jr. in that movie too?
Yeah.
Oh, the soloist.
The soloist. Yeah.
Captain Corelli's mandolin.
Yeah, Captain Corelli's mandolin. Yes. Like it's obviously not funny to them, but just thinking that how that got set up is insane to me.
Yeah.
There's also a point where, I mean, Billy Crystal's obviously improvising a lot in When Harry Met Sally, but I love that thing where he's with her and he's like, can interest you in the pecan pie. The pecan pie. And you can see Meg Ryan turn to the camera going, oh no, like that. And she's telling the director, like, I don't, basically what do I do now? But they kept that in the movie because it's so genuine and everything. Then of course the chest bursting scene in Alien is an all-timer. Nobody at the table knew that was going to happen except for John Hurt and Ridley Scott. And then there's a movie I've never seen, but I think this line is hilarious. Are you guys familiar with Shark Attack 3?
No.
There's a point where this guy there, I'm assuming it's there's a massive shark attack going on in this movie, but no, there's this guy who's like he tells this man and this woman, like, all right, we'll see you tomorrow or whatever, and like drives off, and then the guy turns to the woman, this is completely ad-libbed, says, why don't I take you home and eat your pussy? And then it's like goes to the next scene where they're like, it's the sex scene of the movie or whatever. That's
a way to scene right there.
That's right. That's somebody who knows what kind of movie he's in.
That's why it's the best of the trilogy. Clearly.
Yeah. Absolutely, you couldn't have that trilogy without that third movie.
That's that reminds me actually of an answer I didn't put down, but William H. Macy and Boogie Nights coming in, and it's the guy talking about setting up the shop for the next movie, and he's like, you know what, my wife is out there with an ass in her cock.
Yeah,
in the driveway. And Paul Thomas Anderson just left it in because he thought it was funnier. I don't think that was scripted that way. I think they did it the correct way later on, but he chose to use that take.
I think that's exactly right. I think William H. Macy accidentally switched the two, and it was perfect. And Ricky Jay in that scene is hilarious. He's trying to talk about the lighting and all that, and he's like, "Oh, it's well, fuck it. It's just the lighting of the whole film and everything." And he's like, "Are you giving me shit, Kurt?"
Oh my God, William H. Macy's character in that movie is so bizarre to me. I could go on all day about that, like how he's got this breaking point, but it shouldn't be a breaking point. God, I can digress on that, but yeah, it's interesting. My favorite unscripted parts. I just watched Pretty Woman recently. And there's so much lore. This movie's 31 years old. There's so much lore about who was going to play Vivian, who was going to play Richard Gere's character, all that stuff. And one thing that I had forgotten was that arguably one of the biggest moments in cinematic history over the last 30, 40 years is that snapping scene when he's got the necklace and she goes to reach for it and he goes pop. And she goes, completely unscripted. And as I was watching it, I was anticipating it because how many times have you seen that shot?
Yeah.
And then I read about it, and it was unscripted, and you can see she is just so focused on that. She's in character. She's focused on that, and you can see Richard Gere's finger just creeping up on the back of that box. And my favorite thing about this, and the reason that Gary Marshall kept it in, is that I would get pissed because those things, if you ever snapped your hand in one of those jewelry boxes, especially a big one, those things fucking hurt. Like I would have fucking gone upside his head. But she immediately pulls her hand back and she looks at the cameras, or probably Gary Marshall, and just starts laughing this beautiful, full Julia Roberts laugh. And that's why it's indelible, but it was completely unscripted. Fucking Richard Gere could have just been like, "Hey, you look beautiful." It's fucker he is. But yeah, he was having a laugh. And,
he's taking the piss.
He's taking the piss. And I think that's just a beautiful moment. I like that movie a lot. The other one that I love, not only this is the big one, but when Ron Burgundy's freaking out when the man punted Baxter, Jack Black hit Baxter off of the overpass, and he calls Paul Rudd in Anchorman. By the way, the movie's Anchorman, and he's in the phone booth and he's calling Paul Rudd, and Paul Rudd's telling him they're going to put Veronica as the lead on the news, the anchor, and he doesn't want to hear it. Ron doesn't want to hear it because he's so upset about Baxter, and he's like, "What's wrong?" He's like, the bad man, he bought Baxter." and Paul Rudd is like, "Where are you?" And of course it's, "I'm in a glass case of emotion." And if you watch the outtakes, there's plenty more where this came from. But my favorite part of this thing, I've seen this movie like a million times, I still can't get over it, is where he picks up the phone again and he's like, let me tell you something. And then he just goes, it's so good. I love
of course,
Will
that
Ferrell
leads to that bar scene where he's sitting there talking to, is it Danny Trejo is the bartender in there?
I think so.
He's like, "Women can do stuff now," and all. But he's sitting there like he's getting called back, and of course his whole crew is just in the bar at that time, like just playing pool.
News team, a simple. We've been here the whole time, Ron. Oh, it's such a good movie. This is a fun one. Here's a small twist on the recast a movie segment that you've done in the past. Say you've just come across someone who's awoke from a long-term coma, at least 20 years, and rather than telling them directly which movies to catch up on, would you be able to tell them who from the existing crop of stars is comparative to those they would have known back in the day? For example, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is the current-day Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes, indeed.
Just think about that.
The one that I came up with was if you went into a coma in 1995, Jim Carrey was the biggest comedy star at that time.
Yeah.
If you wake up now, you would call that person Ryan Reynolds probably.
Yeah, both Canadian, eh?
Both Canadian, and Ryan Reynolds obviously patterned a lot of his thing on Jim Carrey too. I mean, you can probably name some other comedy stars that are good in an ensemble, maybe, or but not to leading man status like Ryan Reynolds has done.
Yeah, because they're both conventionally attractive, but they're also not afraid to just kind of mix it up a little bit. What is the age difference between those guys? Do you say?
Probably 15 years, I'd say.
Okay.
Well, maybe not that much. Well, no, it may be that much because Jim Carrey kind of was a late bloomer. So when he was in Living Color, I think he was already 30. So I think he might be close to 60 now.
He is 59. Exactly right. And then Ryan Reynolds is 44.
Yeah, so 15 years.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how closely they seem. And I don't know, back in 1995, would you even know who you wouldn't know who Ryan Reynolds is. The other part of this question, I think I was feeding off a little bit on what Jeremy wrote on his, because it wasn't all about who's the new this person or one thing that's very interesting about stars these days is there's not very many people who fill a certain role that people did back in the 80s and 90s anymore. Movies are kind of sold on their product at this point. If you want to call it, I mean, Marvel is sold on Marvel. People like Chris Evans, they like Chris Hemsworth and all that, but they're not really sold because Chris Evans is in the movie. People aren't going because of that. But one thing out of this Marvel thing that will be interesting to someone in 1995 is Robert Downey Jr. is one of the most respected and well-paid actors there is today. Because back in 1995, he was deeply in the throes of his meltdown until I think 1999 is when he started to finally clean it up, and it took a few more years before he got back to respectable status. And then now he anchors one of the biggest franchises ever to be created. I think that would blow someone's mind from 1995. Yeah, and I'm also I'm going to steal this one. This was on Twitter, I think, and this is how old this question is because this came right after the Oscars, I believe, when Trent Reznor won along with who else was it was he has his Atticus
Ross.
Atticus Ross. Yeah. And then who else? The Stephen Colbert guy also got it.
Oh, Jean-Baptiste.
Yeah, Jean-Baptiste. For Soul.
Yeah.
They got an Oscar for that. Right. And someone on Twitter was like, let me go back in time and tell someone in 1995 that the guy who did the Downward Spiral has gotten an Oscar for something he did for the studio that did Toy Story. And he's that tweet was exactly right. I mean, that's insane to think about if you were back in 1995 and thinking about Nine Inch Nails winning an Oscar for some animated movie.
Yeah. This is not my answer, but I have been, ironically, this question must have just stuck in my brain, but I've been talking with friends lately about if you went back to right after Lost World Jurassic Park, 97, and then you told me what Spielberg's 5 most recent modern movies are. You told 97 Me that, right? So it's got this movie about a horse, fights in a lot of wars.
You could call him a war horse.
Both sides come together to help save the horse from the mud. He's doing
Call
a
it
remake
truce,
of.
man.
He's doing a remake of West Side Story. I would be at least perplexed about the trajectory of my favorite director at the time's career. My real answers, I got some fun ones. Marky Mark left the Funky Bunch and is now one of the most prolific action stars of modern film. And again, I, like Chris, went back to the early to mid 90s to make most of these. So at that point in time, he was known as Marky Mark. He was an underwear model who was part of this group that he formed, Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, and they had that hit Good Vibrations. His brother was one of the new kids on the block, and that was it. And he would start acting not too long after that. Even Boogie Nights is in the 90s, and he's the star. But at that time, at the Good Vibrations era, I don't think you would believe that he would go on. That would be like telling me Vanilla Ice at the height of his career was going to go on to be the next De Niro or something.
Well,
I would punch you in the face.
Even in Clueless, they make a joke about Marky Mark, where it's they're doing some sort of charity thing, and Alicia Silverstone is like, "Oh yeah, I bet everybody loves Marky Mark." I don't even remember what reference the Marky Mark was in there, but she's that's what he was at the time.
Yeah.
He had, he had done maybe Basketball Diaries or something, but he hadn't done Fear or
The Big Hit. Yeah, he had a bunch of weird, eclectic movies.
But you know what? His body is healthy. His rhymes make him wealthy.
Right.
And the Funky Bunch help me.
Yeah.
I'd also like to go back to the early mid 90s and tell that era's movie fans that in 2019 they make another Terminator movie with Arnold and Linda Hamilton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I would have been like, do the math, 30 years from now? Yeah, they actually do.
Yeah.
And the last one I thought was an interesting perspective. Again, if you go back to like 93, a band fronted by one of the non-Kurt Cobain members of Nirvana is now one of the best-selling rock bands of all time. Because at the time, Nirvana was on that trajectory. You didn't have any idea Cobain was going to kill himself. And even if you had knowledge of that, you wouldn't have said, but I think that guy over there is going to start his own band and be the front man and go on to be like basically bigger than like, is there another American band, rock band that's bigger than the Foo Fighters right now? Not historically. I don't think there
you
is.
could
No.
Jam or Green Day, but
Maybe Green Day.
Bands, but no.
Yeah,
Foo
that's
Fighters
one of the
are-
biggest acts in the world. And, in 93, we've been like, get out of here. Nirvana's going to be here for forever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That is
Get
insane
out
because
of here.
it's not like Dave Grohl had this big, profile either. It was
Right.
and that felt like a one-off almost when he came out with Foo Fighters, and even though it was a big, huge hit album, obviously, but that felt like he's not gonna be doing this for years and years or anything. This is like something he'll do every once in a while. It'll be like, like Jane's Addiction doing porno for pyros and all that. It'll be sort of like that. And then now 27 years later, they're still cranking them out. And,
Yeah, and not only was he the youngest guy in the band by far, he was like 19 or so when he joined Nirvana. But also they had gone through, let's see, Chad Channing, they had gone through probably 4 drummers Nirvana had.
oh wow,
Between
I didn't realize that.
Bleach and Nevermind. In fact, I think Chad Channing played on some of the Nevermind sessions before they brought in Dave Grohl. So yeah, you could believe that Chris Novoselic went off and did his own thing, but yeah, Dave Grohl would be a little weird. Weird. So mine would be I'm going to travel back to 1991 using the 30-year rule from Back to the Future. Back to the Future was 1985. He goes to 55, then he goes forward to 2015. In 1991, if I told you Keanu Reeves became a beloved figure in acting or in cinema and is one of the most popular draws in cinema. But his acting has only improved a little bit.
Yeah.
That would be something, because at this point in 91 he has done he did Point Break. He'd already done Bill and Ted's. He did Dangerous Liaisons. Poor guy.
Is there anybody else like that that has improved in stature to A-list level without really? I mean, now granted, we're having a little fun because he puts in the work for all the physical shit for the John Wick stuff.
He does.
And he's a hard worker, but yeah, that's just fascinating the way you put that. Poor guy.
I don't know of too many people who had just forget about the acting ability, but just the career starting off with, indie movies and everything. And then he has a couple of, he has Point Break, he has Bill and Ted's and everything, but like you didn't expect him to be like this big sci-fi guy going through the 90s. And like you would have thought that the way actors usually work is he would have done The Matrix and then he would have done all that stuff in the 90s that Johnny Mnemonic and all that, trying to recreate The Matrix and everything. But he did all the bombs first and then did a huge, thing after that, which is amazing in its own right. And then he takes that Matrix money and he starts making some, weird, romantic comedy type stuff that happened for a while. And then he was like, when John Wick came out, that was a resurrection for him,
It was. It was the Keanu-sans. And he really is great in Always Be My Maybe. Is that what it is?
Yep. Where he's playing himself.
He's playing himself. Yeah, exactly. Similarly, Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal style movies, which were very popular in 1991 or around that area, have been largely replaced by Indonesian cinema and revenge movies like Atomic Blonde and John Wick. Very, very visceral. Bloodsport, it was visceral, but you could tell how fake that shit was. All the slow-mo, all the splits, all the big dudes with like fake blood and shit. And now things have gotten by, Atomic Blonde, Peppermint, John Wick, the one that I just saw with Karen Gillan, Gunpowder Milkshake, which is really good. All that stuff has gotten to where if you don't do the stuff that, Raid, Dread, all that stuff that I was talking about, if you don't do that in an action movie, even Mission Impossible, you ain't going to pass the mustard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh man, I passed mustard once and it was uncomfortable.
I bet it was. It was the dry kind too, wasn't it?
But I mean, you think about going back and watching Under Siege with Steven Seagal or Bloodsport with Jean-Claude Van Damme. It's so lame as far as an action movie by these standards of today, even though they're entertaining and nostalgic and all that stuff. Man, the action has really ramped up lately.
I used to think, is it the second Under Siege? I think it's the second one, where a guy comes at him with a big knife and Seagal does this, and like the knife is in his hands now. And like, I'm sure if I watched it now, it would move like slow motion and I would see all the strings and putty hands. But I used to think, holy shit, that is some badass shit right there. And if you showed the Raid or the Raid 2, I know those are the ones I always say, and there are plenty of other good ones, but if you'd shown that movie to a Seagal fan in 1992, mind would have been fucking blown. They
Dude, been able when I watched that in 2018 or 2017, my mind was blown.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Think about what action was, though, back in the Seagal era. It was more about what your attitude was and how you carried yourself, right? It was all about image more than the actual fighting.
Yep.
And everything. That's why you had those regular everyday dudes who were like Bruce Willis and, who were, our action heroes there for a while. I mean, sure, you had Stallone and Schwarzenegger, the big muscle guys, but you also had, I guess Seagal was a big muscle guy too. But like most of the time, these movies, even Schwarzenegger and Stallone movies, was all about this is how I carry myself, and I'm gonna punch you in the neck if you say something wrong. And that was pretty much it.
Yeah, and this it seems more of like now it's movie driven, and for better or worse, you know, you don't think of now Jennifer Gardner or Karen Gillan or Charlize Theron as like an action star, even though they had these movies that showed off their action prowess. You could debate about Keanu Reeves and John Wick, but again, I don't think those movies are carried necessarily by him. It's a weird thing to say because obviously the work that you were talking about, Jeremy, that he puts into it and the things that he can do, which is why Chad Stahelski or whatever makes him ride a horse down the middle of Manhattan, or,
Right.
you know, that kind of thing. But it's not his personality. It's not his career. It's not his Schwarzenegger-y stuff that carries the movie. It's the stunts themselves and the universe themselves.
Do you know anyone that refers to that movie as Parabellum?
Mm-mm.
But everyone just calls it John Wick 3, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Kind of makes you wonder why they put that Parabellum on there.
Was the second one subtitled, or was it just?
No, I think it was just John Wick 2. But the fourth one's going to be, from what I remember, it's going to be convoluted. It's going to be like
Spirit of Vengeance.
Yeah, like
you have to cut a motherfucker.
Well, I mean, they have to do one of the three: resurrection, extinction, anything that was on a Resident Evil subtitle. I had to do it.
That's the problem with that shit. It's Underworld had the same thing. It's like just number that shit, man. Like the only franchise that can get away with it is Mission Impossible these days. Like you don't.
Well,
think
because
of,
it seems like it actually has something to do with the movie, whereas the other ones are just kind of like you just came up with something that sounded good on a poster.
Yeah, you looked up the definition of Parabellum and thought, oh, that makes sense to this one character's arc in this thing, and no one gives a shit. No, they weren't there because it was called Parabellum.
That's
Nobody's
true.
like dissecting the title.
Yeah.
All right,
Sometimes you
let's
got to
move
cut a
on.
motherfucker.
Yep. Sometimes you gotta cut a motherfucker.
Let's go to the next one here. I'm actually going to move on to TV. We're going to bounce around a little bit here, folks.
All right.
TV.
What is your favorite bottle episode of a TV series? A bottle episode, of course, means that there are primary characters that are kind of stuck in a situation one way or another, and it's not concerning the larger universe of the series, as I understand them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Go ahead. Dude, why don't you go first, Barrett? Go first.
Well, my first one is a cheat, which is funny because I just explained the definition. The Pine Barrens episode in The Sopranos. I've started I'm actually 3/4 of the way through a Sopranos rewatch in advance of the Many Saints of Newark coming out in October. And got to season 3, the Pine Barrens episode, which isn't technically a bottle episode because there's some stuff with Tony, there's some stuff with Melfi, a little bit with Meadow. But the main crux of the story is Paulie and Christopher. Paulie being a captain and Christopher being, a maid guy at this point, going after a Russian that beat up Tony's sister. And this episode is so perfectly done. It's directed by Steve Buscemi. And the episode just keeps going and building and building and building and building. First they accidentally kill this Russian, Paulie and Christopher. Then they say, well, we got to get rid of him where nobody will see it. Let's go to the Pine Barrens. Start dropping things like, hey, I'm hungry. Early in the episode. Like, hey, we could just go and grab that. Turns out Russian's not dead. He goes out. They chase after him. They're in an unfamiliar environment. It's snowing. And all the tension just wrenches up all the way through. Paulie shoots the guy, but did he really? They get lost. The car's gone. Tony has to go find him. There's this wonderful moment overnight with Paulie and Christopher trying to reconcile their complicated relationship. It is as much of a bottle episode as The Sopranos gets, and it is spectacular. It's up there with one of the best episodes in TV history for a reason, I think. It absolutely killed me because it's funny, but it's also tense as hell. It advances the story. It opens up a mystery that I believe has never been solved, a loop that has never been closed in the Sopranos universe about where the Russian went. And it's fantastic. There's two more real quick. The parking garage episode of Seinfeld where you get the uromycetitis, you get the air conditioner, you get Elaine with the goldfish, you got George trying to get back to his parents. It's beautiful. And Jeremy, didn't they build the parking garage? Like they just built one set, but they kept walking around.
I don't know if they built it or if that's just they just kept changing the signage. But they only used one section over and over and over.
They did build it. In fact, they built it and were snubbed for Emmy consideration because they thought it was an actual parking garage.
Son of a bitch.
It's so perfectly shot. It's so great. And then the last one is the suitcase episode of Mad Men. This is where Peggy and Don get kind of caught in the office overnight, and it's such a character development episode, both for obviously Peggy, who shows some cojones to Don finally, and to Don, who's starting to realize, this maybe not everybody is how they seem and how I discount them. That is such a great episode.
Yeah, it is.
I concur. It should come as no surprise to you that three of my very favorite sitcoms are Seinfeld, Frasier, and Friends.
What?
No.
And so I ran with a theme. So we've got the Chinese restaurant in Seinfeld. Yep. There's one called The Dinner Party for Frasier, which is hysterical because the entire episode is Frasier and Niles trying to plan a dinner party. And they keep dancing around poker dates with their dad's calendar. They keep bickering about little things like the Crane brothers do. And it is an absolute laugh riot as their guest list goes to shame. And they come up with this system to blackball the other guy's guests if they don't like them. And they start fighting over the guests. It's fucking hysterical. And then for Friends, early on, I believe in like season 2 or 3, when Ross and Rachel are dating, it's called The One Where No One's Ready, where Ross is trying to get everybody ready to go to this thing that is a part of, he's getting some kind of dinosaur word or something. And Joey and Chandler are fighting over a chair and who gets to sit in it, which leads ultimately to Joey putting on every single piece of clothing that Chandler owns and doing lunges. Phoebe spills hummus on her dress. Rachel can't decide what to wear. The theme in all three of these episodes is that they're all in real time. In addition to being set in a single location, the scripts for each episode play out in real time, which I think would be a lot harder to do than you would think. But if you think about all those episodes, I would bet the parking garage one comes pretty close to real time as well. But that Chinese restaurant one, everything that's happening to them happens in about 22, 23 minutes while we're watching it. That's about how much time unfolds on
I
their
don't think
end
I
as well.
realized that. What I like about that Chinese restaurant is many things, but the fact is they allow pauses in that episode. Like there's times where there's like maybe 5 seconds where nobody talks. And you would never find that, especially in like a network sitcom these days. But there's times where they're just like anxiously looking around and nobody's talking about anything. And oh God, it's so good. Cartwright! Cartwright!
Yes, I yell, Cartwright! No one answers. I hang
Jerry
up.
dares Elaine to go over and eat somebody else's food, and isn't they're trying to make a movie too, right? Like,
Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like, I can't sit there and make shitty jokes about the movie on my own.
That's one of my favorite things about Seinfeld is how deftly they wove real movies and then sometimes fictional movies. And there's the whole Schindler's List thing.
Yeah.
There's the English Patient run. But then there's, prognosis negative.
In Sack Lunch.
Sack
I love
Lunch.
the poster for Sack Lunch because they're all in a bag and like the whole family is like peeking out. And I think Elaine is like, look at that family. How did they get there? It's funny, right?
The Fly episode in Breaking Bad is one of my favorite ones because every time these kind of shows do these kind of episodes, it's all about sort of getting into the psyche or getting some new character development or whatever. And that episode is pretty masterful, I think. I don't know how well it's received with Breaking Bad, like, fans, though. I feel like this is an episode that slips a little bit on ratings. If I recall,
I think it's one of the most controversial episodes amongst fans. I honestly think about half love it, like you and me, and half hate it.
Why would you? I understand that there's not all the Gus stuff and all the Hank stuff, but like, what is the problem with this episode? It's like you said, it's masterfully done.
Look, I love it. It moves slow, and I think that's even when there's not action. Breaking Bad fans are maybe used to a faster pace. What I appreciated is that because we get Walt in this super, super tired state where he's almost on truth serum, we the whole episode flirts with what is he going to say to Jesse? What is he going to accidentally leak? And so it makes it a lot more tense, I think, than a typical bottle episode because there is this lurking long-term story plot underneath. But bottle episodes are what they are. It's a TV show trying to save money so they can spend more elsewhere. So they use one set, minimal actors. They shoot the episode called The Fly so that they can spend 3 times as much on Ozymandias, which you all agree is one of the best episodes ever. So I think that's kind of how that works. Not that those episodes were back to back. I just mean in general, you do a bottle episode so that you can blow your budget up on the next one.
Yeah. And recently, Ted Lasso, in fact, the last episode that came out called Beard After Hours, is a great episode. Beard is the assistant coach that Ted Lasso has. He's the buddy. He's the pretty much the lovable buddy who's got the stern look on his face all the time. He always has. He says everything super straight and like if he's angry or doing jokes or anything, he's a very awesome character. This one decided to follow him around after a big loss and showing him go to a bar and meeting up with some people and going to parties and getting texts from this girl that he broke up with and trying to decide whether or not he wants to go back with her or not. But he's sitting there, he gets into all this intrigue during that. Now, just like what we were talking with Fly, this episode is not, according to the IMDb, not beloved by people who love Ted Lasso. It doesn't look like. I think it's got a 6.9 or something, which is, it sounds decent, but when a show gets into the point where it's won Emmys and people generally love it and everything, nearly every episode generally gets in the high 7s, if not the low 8s on the IMDb. So when one is like this, where it's at 6.9, I think, it's interesting. And it must come down to the fact that you don't see all the characters, you don't see the story developing. The thing about bottle episodes is that you're following this thread of a story for so long, and they usually hit those bottle ones like right there, like towards the end somewhere. And it's like, shit, we were just getting into this part.
Yeah.
I think that's what people get upset about, is that it doesn't continue the story. And, there are a lot of characters on Ted Lasso that you want to see. You want to see them every week, and if they're not there or they're not there very much, then people, I think, kind of get upset. But I think this episode, over time, people will come around on it. So
I feel like bottle episodes are better than clips episodes that we used to get of every sitcom.
Oh my God, those were so bad.
And I would rather watch The Fly than an episode where Jesse and Walt are having beers and one of them goes, "You remember that first time we cooked in the RV out in the desert?
Mhm.
That was crazy." And then it cuts for 7 minutes and
Right.
shows a snippet of that. Like, fuck that noise. It's the same ploy. The production company's saving money, but I'll take a bottle episode over a clip show any day of the week.
Oh my God, those clip shows were the worst. The Simpsons would joke about it every year. Like, they do one. I think they did one for 6 or 7 seasons or something like that, and they'd always try to dress it up with this. Like there'd be a tiny bit of a story, and then everybody would gather around the couch and then start talking about previous stuff. So I think that maybe I can't remember which episode was the last one. It might have been that 138th episode spectacular. May have been the last time they did that. So, all right, everybody, it's time to talk about Poshmark.
Poshmark. Poshmark. That's right, baby. Poshmark. We all need new stuff. All right, folks. And we also have to get rid of old stuff. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, this is the circle of life, as they say in The Lion King. Mm-hmm. Poshmark is a marketplace, an online marketplace. Where you can sell your slightly worn stuff that would be of use to other people. And you can buy new and slightly worn stuff from other people. And this is not like your standard hand-me-downs and stuff like that. This is for real. This is like Free People. This is like J. Crew. This is like Victoria's Secret. That's right, I said it. This is stuff like Fenty, the Rihanna thing, right? This is and by the way, it ain't just clothes; it's accessories. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's my wife has her eyeballs fixated on Louis Vuitton stuff. There's Fendi bracelets. There's Coach leather wallets. There's all kinds of stuff on Poshmark. Poshmark is where you want to go to get your closet curated, a curated closet through Poshmark, and you will be a new person dressed beautifully and accessorized beautifully up to 70% off.
Whoa!
Regular retail price.
70%.
70%.
Guys, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Movie fans, I will appeal to you directly. You remember the era of physical media? There were these stores and strip malls where you could take your used CDs and DVDs that you didn't watch anymore, and they would flip through a catalog and tell you what they were worth, and then you could get store credit, and then you could go flip through all the other nice used, gently loved physical media and take home new movies without having to pay $25 for a brand new DVD for each of them, right? Okay, so those days are dead, but they live on in fashion.
That's right.
With Poshmark.
That's right.
Poshmark is like one of those stores to the 10th power because it covers way more than just, one tiny little geographic area. So I saw some golf stuff on there. You can never have if you play golf, you can never have too many golf shirts. And so I've got my eye on a couple of golf shirts at Poshmark. But like Barrett said, hats, accessories, it really is a huge marketplace.
It is, man. You can either go to Poshmark.com on the World Wide Web, or you can download the app, and that's where you want to do your business, right? You get your phone on you at all times, when you're indisposed, when you're watching a ball game, commercial comes on, you look down at your phone, hit that Poshmark app, right? And here's what you do. You enter the invite code SinCast SinCast, POSH, get $10 off. Now, that's on top of the crazy savings that you get. And I'm not like Mattress King where I'm like, I'm the whiz. There's nobody like me. No. This is up to 70% off of regular prices. Then, using SinCast Posh, you get an extra $10 off. When you use that as a promo / invite code, let's all come together and let's make this happen, folks. Let's mobilize. What are you waiting for? Just do that. You download the app, SinCast Posh, $10, boom, just materializes.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody could use an extra $10. I'd like $10 in my pocket right now. How about them apples? Right? So go do it. Poshmark app, SinCast Posh. All right, next one. What is your favorite director-composer partnership other than Steven Spielberg and John Williams? Can't really. That's at the Mount Rushmore right there that they gave us.
I have Hitchcock and Bernard Herrmann down here.
Can't miss.
Yeah. Bernard Herrmann, obviously, a lot of great music. Spike Lee and Terrence Blanchard is another one.
Interesting.
I think it was after Do the Right Thing, Spike Lee went to Terrence Blanchard, and there's something I don't know, you may not think about the music too much in Spike Lee movies, but it's very good. It's very dramatic. It's very Terrence Blanchard's been with him since I believe 1990. So every movie since has had him.
He's good. So he was there with Inside Man, and that score is fantastic.
Yeah, and Malcolm X, and I mean the music and Black Klansman's got a good score to it.
Hell yeah.
And Defy Bloods has great music. So yeah, that's another one. I don't think it gets as much play. It's unmistakable though when you hear his music that it's that guy, because he has a very dramatic flair, and especially when Spike Lee's going through all of his montage type stuff and
Spike Lee-isms. Yeah, that score under the when they're at the seminar in Black Klansman is definitely dramatic, and you see all those different faces come up. Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got two. My boy Michael Giacchino.
Yeah.
If only you found out how to pronounce his name.
I'll just keep messing it up on purpose for all the time. I'm okay with that. And Brad Bird, who have most prominently for me worked together on The Incredibles and Ratatouille, both A+ movies with really memorable scores. I bought the Incredibles score on CD in whatever the year that was, 2004.
Yeah.
The fuck was I thinking? But he also did Tomorrowland. They worked on that together, and I think Giacchino did the score for Ghost Protocol. Yeah, he did. So they've worked together several times, and Giacchino's awesome at whatever he does. I think it's Giacchino.
Yeah.
And we just heard on Twitter a couple of days ago a snippet of his Batman theme that sounded so rad. I'm fascinated by people who can create themes out of complex melodies as well as simple ones. Because the incredible stuff is that's complicated, man. And this Batman theme is but it gives me chills. My other one, my sneaky pick, my back pocket pull is Phil Alden Robertson and James Horner. The director made Field of Dreams and Sneakers, and James Horner scored both of them. They both have fantastic James Hornerisms where the piano goes after some mesmerizing reveal. Two of my very favorite movies, and I don't think they've ever worked together again outside those two movies, but they made magic.
Jimmy Horner, man, he worked. You could associate him with Ron Howard, obviously, and with James Cameron.
Yeah.
Some of his best stuff. It's interesting you went with Phil Alden Robinson, which is a great pick. But yeah, I mean, you can't think about James Horner to me and not think about the Titanic theme or the Apollo 13 / Sneakers music that goes into all that stuff.
Yeah.
He's that dude was a legend.
James Horner was so prolific in the 90s that it was easy to pick out what a Horner score was as soon as you heard it. And I'll never forget this, watching A Beautiful Mind, the very first note when it was on the Universal logo, I was like, that's James Horner.
Wow. This is hard to remember, but back in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, Tim Burton and Danny Elfman were fire.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Burton did not direct The Nightmare Before Christmas, but he directed The Nightmare Before Christmas. All right.
Uh-huh.
And Danny Elfman not only did the music for that, but he provided Jack Skellington's singing voice.
What's this?
Some of the best melodies of any musical. And you cannot watch or think about, if you're at a certain age, you cannot think about Batman without thinking of which is a Danny Elfman score to a Tim Burton movie from 1989. He was with him through Edward Scissorhands. I believe he did the music for Ed Wood.
There's one he didn't because they had a falling out, and I think it may be Ed Wood actually that they he didn't do the music
Sure.
for.
I'm
That
sure
may
that's
have
right.
been that. It ended up being somebody big though. It's kind of weird. They had a falling out, and then I think he does Mars Attacks like a year later or something, 2 years later.
Well, you can see both of them being mercurial, you know.
Yeah. Where's the guy? Music by Howard Shore.
Howard Shore.
There's another one, by the way, that if you're paying attention, you can pick out a Howard Shore score pretty
For sure.
pretty easily.
Yeah. James Newton Howard is another one that but Danny Elfman and Tim Burton back in their heyday was just absolutely marvelous. I absolutely loved it. Big Top Pee-wee or Pee-wee's Big Adventure was another one that I can.
Pee-wee.
Well, I think he did both of them. I think Danny Elfman did both of them.
He may have, yeah.
So yeah, I love that collaboration. The other one that cannot be overlooked is Carter Burwell and the Coen brothers.
Oh my God, so awesome.
Carter Burwell. Now, I'm not going to stick my foot in my mouth anymore. He has done most, if not all, of the recent Coen brothers films, like from way back to probably before Fargo.
I can't remember where it started. I know Miller's Crossing, I believe, is a Carter Burwell.
And he's more understated than these things. I would know it if I heard it. Like, I would probably be able to say, like, oh, that's the score from The Man Who Wasn't There. That's the score from Fargo. That's the score from, obviously, Ballad of Buster Scruggs. That kind of thing. But that's the score from No Country for Old Men.
He's been there since Blood Simple.
Wow. Yeah. So but he's more understated. Like, he's not bombastic like Hans Zimmer or even Danny Elfman. He's more subtle, but it works. It perfectly complements the film. It's like having a little like acidic, like pickled red onion on top of a taco, like a really rich beef taco or something like that. He complements it perfectly. And I think he's underrated. I think he's been nominated, if not won a few Academy Awards. But I think he's also
been nominated
underrated.
twice.
Yeah. So that's a great collaboration. Apparently, the Coen brothers are loyal. You can't say that they're not loyal to their collaborators. They stick with their folks.
It could. I mean, it might flow the other way. It might be that the actors and composers are loyal to the Coens. Frances McDormand married one of them.
He has not been nominated for anything the Coen brothers have done.
What was he nominated for?
The fact that he's only been nominated twice is kind of, this is like the cinematography thing all over again, right? Roger Deakins and all that, same sort of deal. Although Deakins got nominated a bunch, this guy twice, and he's done some incredibly beautiful music. But he's gotten nominated for Carol and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Jesus Christ!
So that's
I ain't never gonna watch that 3 Billboards movie again. By the way, speaking of
because of that, yeah,
exactly.
Wait, he did the score for that?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if Frances McDormand's connection there is.
Oh, could be.
Maybe so. There's some directors that just like, you were talking to George, who was the guy, Chris?
Gallo?
George Gallo, who he called up, what was it? Was it Morgan Freeman? And was just like, I've got a relationship to where if I call him, he's like, yeah, go ahead. I was looking at Neil Jordan the other day, the director.
Yeah.
And Stephen Ray has been in like almost every one of his movies, starting with Crying Game or Around the Crying Game. And they're both Irish. But like you get a sense that like anytime he's like, Stephen, come.
yeah.
And he's like, okay, I'm good.
I think it's funny just talking to somebody who's like got Morgan Freeman on speed dial and just can get him in any movie. I mean, they've done 4 movies or something together. It's kind of crazy.
I mean, if you've got a good relationship, when one of you or both of you go on to become, famous directors or whatever, I feel like you could call me if you needed something written or something like that, and I'd immediately be like,
I don't think Tom Cruise is ever going to be in a movie that's not directed by McQuarrie or Joseph Kosinski.
Those motherfuckers are attached at the hip now, especially him and McQuarrie, man.
Yeah, they've made 4 movies together, right? 2 Jack Reachers, although McQuarrie...
No, he didn't do the second one. He didn't do the second one.
They made 2 Ghosts or 2 Mission Impossible movies so far.
Well, and that's after changing directors every single chapter.
Yeah, and then
he went back to McQuarrie.
Cruise made that Oblivion movie with Kosinski, and I'm sure that's why they're both involved in the Top Gun Maverick. I think certainly if anyone in Hollywood has earned the right to say, I'm only going to work with these people, it's Tom Cruise probably. But yeah, I think that happens all over Hollywood. I know James Gunn has had Nathan Fillion in every one of his movies.
Yep.
As well as one of his brothers, and somebody else has been in almost every one. And Bryan Johnson has had
Michael Rooker might have even been in everything that James Gunn's done as well.
It is Michael Rooker. Rooker. Yeah.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. All right, let's move on to the next one here. I can't wait to do this. I've been sitting on this for so long, it feels like it's crawled up my ass. What movie lines are made memorable by the actor's accent? This person's example would be Clever Girl from Jurassic Park. I did not do that justice, but that is an indelible line that certainly is accented by the accent.
Jeremy, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I'll kick you off. All right. So my first one is one I've mentioned before on this here podcast, and it's odd. Okay, the question says memorable, not funny, so I can go with that. But we're introduced to Ralph Fiennes' character in Schindler's List when he's riding in the back of a fancy convertible, and they're showing him all these workers they have lined along the road who are concentration camp prisoners, and they're basically just saying, does this look good to you? What do you think? And, do you have any questions? And he goes, yeah, why is top down? I'm fucking freezing. And it's always stuck with me. I don't know why. And that whole portrayal is scary.
Oh my God, he's frightening. It's like a horror movie.
It really is. Brad Pitt in Inglourious Bastards saying arrivederci.
A lot of people, that's a divisive accent. I've heard people that hate his accent in that movie. I love it. He's supposed to be
bad.
He's like, sound good. He's like, I want those scalps. I want them Nazi scalps.
Killing Nazis.
I'm killing Nazis.
My other one is Chekhov, Walter Cohen in Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home, because he and Uhura are trying to find the nuclear vessels. Where are the nuclear vessels? We need to go to Alameda. That is where they keep the nuclear vessels. And as a little kid, man, my mom was a Trek fan, so I got to see most of the movies in the old show growing up. But the fourth one hit perfect for me. That was my favorite by a mile and a half. I think I was like, what year did that come out? 87?
Which movie?
4? No,
Star Trek
came
4.
out
Star Trek 4 was 86, I think.
6.
Yeah, so I was 11. And probably by the time it came out of theaters, went to the video store, and then ended up at the library, I was probably 13 when I saw it. But I loved it. It was always my favorite one.
Did you have you watched any of the other 4K transfers from the first 4? Besides,
I put Wrath of Khan back in the second night to see if I was crazy, and man,
it's dark.
you can call it crisp because there is more detail in the picture, but it's dark. It's dark as hell. And I don't remember the movie being that dark. And it's frustrating because it's one of my favorites. I'll put one of the others in and see if they did a better job.
I'd like to see Voyage Home is it Voyage Home? Yeah, Voyage Home. I'd like to see Voyage Home in that 4K. I bet that would pop.
The same way I felt about the Goodfellas 4K that I bought, because I popped it in and I was just like, this looks like you just kind of threw on the Blu-ray version or whatever, didn't do any kind of like sprucing up or anything, and it still looks decent, but it's not, it's not like, whoa, look at that's fucking amazing, look at the detail and shit. It's not like that at all. So, and I like all things. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it was just the one time that I popped it in. Maybe the sun was shining too much in my living room.
Well, I need to put the first one in just because, as terrible as that movie is, it's got good space porn, and if that looks good in 4K, it might bode well for the other movies. But
you should also put actual porn in there.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah,
you can really see the veins.
That's what I want to see. I want to see all the zits and veins and
track marks,
cellulite, track marks. Yeah. Jesus Christ,
it's fucked up.
Not cool at all.
Something you can put your Red Lobster bib on and dig in.
Red Lobster.
That's right.
Back to Red Lobster.
We are back to Red Lobster. Okay, so in Die Hard with a Vengeance, Jeremy Irons has this line that he just sinks his fucking teeth into, man. It's just one of those. So it's right after he's made the call and the big reveal that he's Hans Gruber's brother has happened. And he tells them that there's a bomb in the school, and all the cops just drive off and everything so that he can go and rob the Federal Reserve. He's up at the top of a roof or whatever, and he's like, they bought it. And then he shows all the cars driving around down there, and then there's like sort of a shot where it's following him walking on the roof, and he's like, hook, line, and sinker. And he's looking at the Federal Reserve as he says this, and it's just something that Jeremy Irons' voice is a fucking it's a wonder of the world, man.
Yes, it
is. What is his accent in that? Is it European? He's not going for British like Alan Rickman did, even though he's supposed to be German.
Yeah,
it's honestly, like vaguely European, right? It's not totally German. It's not totally British.
Yeah, I think it's his normal voice, actually.
Is that right?
Yeah, I don't think he's trying anything there at all.
I see.
I think when he's on the phone and he's doing the Simon Says stuff, which I believe is what the movie was called before it was a Die Hard. I think he's trying to kind of do something there, maybe.
Yeah.
But once the cat's out of the bag, he's just he's Jeremy Irons. Yeah, I mean, he might be doing something different. But I don't know what it is. I don't think anybody knows what that's supposed to be.
Okay.
Yeah. And then another one is Rob Morrow and Quiz Show. You can't talk about accents without Rob Morrow and Quiz Show, but that scene with him and Ray Fiennes. Ray Fiennes popping up again, friend of the show.
There you go. That's right.
Don't treat me like I'm some member of your goddamn fan club. You're telling me that everybody got the answers but you? Is one of my favorite all-time lines, especially because of how Morrow says it in that awful Boston accent. And we've talked about this before. That movie is not what it is without the terrible Boston accent. If he doesn't have it, then it's not the same Quiz Show.
I agree. I agree.
There's a million accents that I quote all the time. One of the things is from 1985's Clue. By the way, I played the Clue board game with my family the other day. Completely forgot the rules. How do you forget the rules?
Everybody does. Everybody has idea of what the rules are supposed to be when they
Throwing
pull
shit
out a
out the
board
window.
game for 20 after 20 years. It's like, I think when you pass go, you don't collect $200 in this instance, and and
There's a bevy of great accents in this movie, from Wadsworth, Tim Curry's character. Eileen Brennan has a great one with Mrs. Peacock, very mid-Atlantic, almost continental type of thing. And then Yvette, Colleen Camp's French maid accent is just pure delight to me. So they end up splitting up, at Colonel Mustard's suggestion, and Wadsworth, they draw straws and everything. Mr. Green, who's a homosexual in the movie, Michael McKean's character is paired with Colleen Camp and Yvette, and they're going up to the attic to investigate where the killer is, and they stop at the bottom of the stairs, and that's it. And he just looks up, and Michael McKean is so great in this. And Colleen Camp looks at him. He's like, "Go on, I'll be right behind you." And and he's like, "That's what I'm scared of." And then eventually they go back and forth. And he's like, "Well, I can't follow you, and you can't follow me." And she's like, "Then we go together." I use that all the time. Anytime my wife is like, "All right, why don't you get in the car?" I'm like, "We go together." It's so great.
I love the fact that I just love the fact that the fucking it's the victim is called Mr. Body. I just
Mr.
love
Body.
that
Mr.
so
Body's
much.
body. It's gone.
Yeah.
Jeremy, I can't believe you don't love this movie unquestionably. Like this is seems like it's right up your alley.
I think the problem is I don't know which movie you're talking about.
Clue?
Clue. There you go.
Is this another one where I didn't say it at the beginning?
No, you said it.
You did, because we were talking about forgetting the rules to play Clue. I've never seen it.
I think you should give it a shot.
Do you get to choose your ending? Or they randomize it, or what? Because aren't there multiple endings to this film?
This is something from a 1985 movie that I will not spoil for you. I want you to watch it, and you can see how it turns out. But it's Knives Out, but more hilarious, and with an indelible performance by just about everybody. Martin Mull, Michael McKean, Tim Curry, Colleen Camp, fucking Scarlett. Who is Miss Scarlett?
Madeline Kahn?
No, Madeline Kahn is Mrs. White.
Leslie Ann Warren.
Leslie Ann Warren.
Who, by the way, I saw in a Columbo episode just yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Leslie Ann Warren, man. Yeah, I think Jeremy would like Clue, especially since there's the farcical element to it and everything, and it's like as if Frasier were to do a murder mystery or something like that.
Yeah.
It's dynamite.
Yeah.
Boy, I hope you watch this, and I hope you enjoy it, but I hope you watch it. Of all the recommendations that I've made to you over the years, I would love for you to watch this movie. Speaking of accents, though, you cannot have a discussion about accents without talking about John Malkovich and Rounders.
Yep.
One of the most over-the-top Russian accents that you will ever hear. As Chris said fairly recently, he was like, how do you, even if it's over the top, even if it's horrible, how do you not remember this performance because of this accent? You know, Teddy KGB is a memorable character, but he wouldn't be half as memorable without that fucking accent. You know, when Damon walks in there at the end and he's like, "So, you have my money?" And you're like, "Whoa." I mean, you've heard it before, but you almost forget about it. And then, you know, after he just gets pissed off because of that run at the end and that crazy last hand and everything. Those could not have helped you. What was it? The two of spades or something like that. That could not have helped you. And then, you know, after he shows him the nuts, he's like, you know, grandma gets all pissed off and everything. And he's like, "No, pay him. Pay that man his money." Man. It's a warm, tickly place in my heart.
There's a line just like anything, right? Like John Malkovich went with an accent and said, "I'm doing this." Whereas the ones that we don't like, the ones that are annoying and get and grate on us, are the ones where it looks like they're really trying and they just can't get it.
Yeah. Or the ones where they try and then they kind of give up, like Canoe and Devil's Advocate, like Brad Pitt in Devil's Own. I can't decide if he gives up halfway through, but I feel like he's trying all the way
down. I think he puts the pedal to the metal halfway through, man. That movie is entertaining if you watch it as a comedy.
Last half first.
Yeah,
that movie's ridiculous.
I haven't
what
seen
happens
it
when a cop is forced to have an IRA member living in his basement?
That movie is bad.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
God,
I just remember hating his accent, but like, it's like Far and Away. I don't think is a terrible movie, but I just couldn't get past, even at that point in my life, I couldn't get past Tom Cruise's Irish accent. Like, it's bad. It's just so bad. I just can't. I can't.
Yeah.
Let's go. Speaking of Tom Cruise.
Speaking of.
After recently watching A Few Good Men, after having it on my to-watch list for a long time, I couldn't help but really love Tom Cruise in the movie.
Yeah.
It made me go from liking him in movies to loving him in movies. So the question is, what movie made you go from liking an actor to loving an actor?
This has happened a lot recently, especially with females out in the world. The Amanda Seyfried and Mank. Sold me. I mean, First Reformed was a good prep for it, and then Mank was like, oh my God, she's like actually really good. Natalie Portman in Black Swan is that was the first time I really thought that Natalie Portman was like a true actor. I've said this before. I think a lot of the movies before this, she was fine in whatever she was in. She wasn't bad. She didn't stick out like a sore thumb or anything. But Black Swan is where I feel like she's really going balls to the wall acting in that movie. Scarlett Johansson.
I'm sorry, did she get nominated?
She won for Black Swan.
She won for Black Swan. That's her only win at this point, right?
I think so. But she's been nominated maybe 3 or 4 times.
For Jackie probably was up there.
Jackie was one. Yeah. But yeah. Scarlett Johansson for Jojo Rabbit. Obviously Marriage Story came the same year, and this was I've always thought Scarlett Johansson was all right. I mean, I thought Lost in Translation was her best work until this came out. Because everything since then was kind of either, it's just a romantic comedy or something like that, or she was in all these Marvel movies where you don't really get a chance to shine as an actor, really. And then Regina King in If Beale Street Could Talk is one. I always liked Regina King, but I didn't think she had like great projects to show her off at all. If Beale Street Could Talk, it was the first time I was like, holy shit, she's way better than I thought she was. And ever since that movie came out, she's been in so many things where she's like getting all sorts of fucking accolades. So she's finally getting the projects that she deserves. And we've seen Regina King forever. Like all through the 90s, we saw her and stuff like Jerry Maguire as Cuba Gooding Jr.'s wife and blah, blah, blah.
You go back and watch that shit and you're like, oh, Regina King. Regina King. Oh, yeah. Look at that, Regina King. She was in a car commercial in the Packers game the last night. I was like, oh, yeah, Regina King. So, I mean, you could argue there's a lot of great parts about Watchmen, the TV series. And it's rare that the leading character is the best part of a series. I think she may be the best part. And there's a lot of great parts in that.
Arguably, yeah.
I mean, she does everything in that movie. That series. Feels like a movie. There's a lot to love about it, but she is the glue and the most interesting character arc, I think. Especially at the end.
Yeah.
Great one.
It's my turn.
Yep. You're about due for another Watchmen rewatch there, Jeremy.
I really am. They're talking about doing another season. And Dicer and I are both kind of bummed about that.
Yeah, I thought they swore
But,
that off.
Okay, so my first answer to this question was Leonardo DiCaprio in Blood Diamond.
Oh,
Now-
Nice one. Nice one.
Blood Diamond came out the same year as The Departed. I did not see The Departed until after I had seen Blood Diamond. This is an interesting time in his career as I look at his IMDb because, of course, when he started out, he was a kid, so he got a lot of kid roles. But as he grew up, even when he was a young adult, a lot of the roles he was being given were the impertinence of youth. Well, there's always some kid aspect of him, from Catch Me If You Can, which might be his best movie. Gangs of New York, he's still looked at as the kid. The Beach, he's too young to realize you can't fucking swim out to an island and live forever like a hippie. And I was on this plane, it was 2008, and I was headed to a conference in Seattle. And that's a long flight. That's like a 5-hour flight. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to watch some movies. I had a buddy at the time who was slipping me DVDs every now and then that he'd gotten off torrents. And Blood Diamond was one of them. And so I popped it in. I didn't know anything about this movie except that Leo was in it. And man, right out of the gate, he looks like a man. I don't want to say this wrong, but there's no more baby fat on this kid. He's beefed up. He looks like he has life experience. He's doing an accent and doing it well, speaking of accents. But then by the end, his character has that George Clooney in Three Kings arc where he goes from this selfish rogue just trying to get the diamond for himself to literally sacrificing himself to save this guy that he's been traveling with and his kid. And that was the first time I ever thought, holy shit, he's an actor. Up until then, I thought he was just a movie star. And I think for the sake of this conversation, there is a difference. I think Hugh Jackman is a movie star. I think Denzel Washington is an actor, if that makes any sense. That's where I'm drawing the line. Jackman is a fine enough actor. But there are people who like Daniel Day-Lewis. Every time out, you're just like, God, that's amazing work.
This is absolutely correct. This is the right answer to this question. To the longest time, I couldn't buy DiCaprio in some of his more grown up roles up until this point when this and The Departed came out, because he had been doing like exactly what you were talking about. We knew him from Titanic, and he was What's Eating Gilbert Grape and all this, and then when he's supposed to do his first big adult role, which is Gangs of New York, I was like, I don't know if I buy him as this gritty fucking back in the day guy. And it took a while, and he finally sort of got it. I used to think DiCaprio didn't age, but it was right around this time where there's a difference, where you start seeing the difference and everything. So I absolutely agree with this.
Awesome. The other one I'll name is Ben Foster in 310 to Yuma. Ben
that was
Foster
the one, not Alpha Dog?
Not Alpha. Well, I didn't see Alpha Dog until after I'd seen 310 to Yuma. If I'd seen Alpha Dog first, then hell yes, that would have done it. But prior to that, I knew him from like Whatever It Takes or Get Over It, that rom-com with Kirsten Dunst. And he's like the lead. He's like the male lead who's too nervous to talk to the girl.
Oh my God, I don't remember this at all.
Well, it was in our Hollywood days. I have a mirror I still use in the shower that says whatever it takes.
Get Over It.
Get Over It. I used to take
you have a mirror that you look at every day and you still don't know what the title of that movie is.
One of the things, I get Over It and Whatever It Takes absolutely confused. They came out around the same time. They have the same cast. Wow. I'm sorry.
Yeah, pretty much, because Colin Hanks was talking about like how he was trying to make it in movies, obviously without his dad, lording over him and everything. And he's like, so yeah, when you first see some of my movie credits, it's like Whatever It Takes, all those type of movies, that's got the exclamation point at the end of it. But yeah, good God, Zoe Saldana's in this movie. Mila Kunis is in this movie. There's a lot of people in this movie.
Yeah. Are you looking at Get Over It?
Yeah, Get Over It.
Yeah, that's got vitamin C in it as well.
Oh, yeah.
the singer, the graduation song.
As we
thing.
go
Yep, that's her.
on.
Anyway, Ben Foster somehow steals a movie that stars Russell Crowe and Christian Bale in 3:10 to Yuma.
He steals Alpha Dog too, man.
He
With
does.
like everybody in it.
He does, but Christian Bale and Russell Crowe they're both awesome in 3:10 to Yuma. And part of it is the character that Foster is given is the more flamboyant, over-the-top character, whereas Crowe and Bale are both, world-weary, seasoned, quiet talkers. But Ben Foster's fucking electric in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And everything I've seen him in since, I saw Alpha Dog after that, then of course Hell or High Water. But he's an outstanding actor, and I just hadn't seen it prior to that movie.
You need to watch Leave No Trace. I haven't seen that, but I hear amazing things about it. It seems like it's right up your alley.
I haven't seen it, but
It's like a nature-based movie, like character study. With him
he's in this. Him and his daughter. Yeah, I actually accidentally saw something else. I was looking for this movie. Hang on, because it had Ben Foster in it. And I accidentally watched an entirely different Ben Foster movie, Galveston. It came out the same year, and didn't enjoy it. I was like, "What's everybody talking about?" But I watched the wrong movie.
You watched the wrong
this.
Ben Foster movie. Mine is the first one is Jennifer Lawrence. I appreciate Jennifer Lawrence on many different levels. I was never a huge fan of the Silver Linings Playbook. I don't know.
Me neither.
Really? I know.
Yeah.
I thought I was on an island because that movie is almost universally beloved, and it's certainly not bad. Good direction, good pacing, good performances, but it just didn't connect with me at all. And I don't not like David O. Russell. It just kind of missed me.
Yeah.
So I saw Winter's Bone. She's fantastic in that. She's great in Hunger Games, but the Hunger Games are what they are, right?
Mm-hmm.
American Hustle and all that stuff. Of course, Passengers came out, and that was fun. But I didn't love her until I saw Mother. Darren Aronofsky's Mother. That is one of the most singular movies and singular performances I have ever seen in film. It has a narrative, but it also has analogous stuff and metaphorical stuff that you can throw in there. There's so many different layers to that movie, and it seems like she is our vessel into understanding that movie. And from where she goes from the beginning all the way to the very, very end of that movie is what I would call maybe a perfect character arc. And she's not all gussied up like she is in Passengers. Or she's glamorous. She's a beautiful, beautiful lady. But she tones that down in Mother, and it is a glorious performance. And I went from liking to loving her in that movie. The other one is Riz Ahmed. And that's The Sound of Metal that I fell absolutely in love with him. Now, he was great in Nightcrawler. He, poor thing, didn't have anything to do in Venom. He had been in quite a few other things. Was he in Rogue One? I forget which Star Wars he was in. I think it was Rogue One. He was fine in that. I know a lot of people jack it to Rogue One all the time. I am not a jacker of Rogue One.
It's regularly put in the top 3 now of Star Wars movies.
I've watched it now 3 times. It's perfectly fine. I am not going to be fondling my niblets for it.
Not hard to crack the top 3 in Star Wars, is it?
Nope. After the first 2,
that's something we could have done. That's something we could have done for that other question is go back to 1993 and say, okay, you're going to get 9 more live action Star Wars movies. But no one's going to be able to agree on if any of them are good.
Yeah, exactly.
My God. I've been planning a Last Jedi rewatch, by the way.
Have fun with that.
I can't decide if it's under.
You got to do some hold-on maneuvers.
That's right.
Do some real damage.
But you watch Sound of Metal, and Jeremy, I understand you still haven't watched this yet, right?
Right.
Yeah, and I totally understand why, but man, this guy's performance is absolutely mind-blowing.
Mm-hmm.
He is peaceful at one point, he's funny at some points, he's loving at some points, he's horrifically angry at some points, he's altruistic at some points. The guy gives a performance of a lifetime in this movie. And finally, I think he's given a vessel to really show off his gifts, and he kills it, man.
You know what's great about that movie is that when you now go back to watch anything else he's in, it becomes better.
Yeah.
Suddenly.
Yeah.
Like in Nightcrawler, I liked him in Nightcrawler, but now that I don't know, it's something about after having seen this, I was like, all right, I'm noticing him more.
Yeah, he's marginalized in that movie for a point. His character is marginalized, so you kind of associate that with the actor. But yeah, no, he's great, and he kind of becomes such an accomplice and such a enabler that you start to see more of an arc in his character.
Yeah.
Do you remember
the 21st day of September?
A scene from Fast and Furious 6 where some white dude in a suit's face is on screen, and the sin is, this man's face goes way too unpunched for me.
I think so.
That actor has just tweeted, my son just introduced me to Cinemasins on YouTube. It's hilarious. He then told me there's one on Fast and Furious 6. Oh, brilliant, I thought. ... Oh, and then he screen caps that sin of me saying his face is unpunched. But he also just followed us on Twitter, so I think he's laughing.
Yeah.
Wow, that is hilarious.
Isn't it amazing, like, how we get these people who are like, they're not huge stars or anything like that, but they see us and they just love this shit. Like
the
we
kid
had that
from The Accountant.
Yeah, the kid from The Accountant, the extra in the Halloween movie that came out.
Oh yeah.
Because we had a sin about one of the thing that he said in his like brief period of time that he was on it, and he suddenly tweeted out and everything. That's always amazing to me. It's so fun.
Yep. I like this one a lot. I love your podcast, and I cannot get through my commute without listening. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you guys could think of any instances where slow motion is actually used in a good way and helps the scene.
Well, it's not Amy Adams walking out of a coffee shop in Zack Snyder's Justice League with 2 cups of coffee. That's not it.
That's my favorite part of that movie.
Her hair is blowing in the wind.
Speaking of Zack Snyder, before this became a thing with him, I actually liked it in 300.
I did too.
And I liked how, and it really helped that trailer too. Before that trailer, what sold everybody on 300 before it came out. But I kind of liked it in that. I think because the movie is being told from the future, basically, and there's this narration over it and everything. There's something about that slow motion that works really well with all that. And then this is a ridiculous movie and it's not good, but I laughed my ass off and I nearly fell down on the floor laughing during Escape from LA. During the Kurt Russell basketball scene where he's got like, I don't know, a minute. He has to run back and forth between 2 ends of a basketball court and put in like 5 baskets. I can't remember what it is. And he's gotten his 4th one and he's only got like 3 seconds left or something. And he throws this like full court heave to get into the bat, and it's like it's a slow motion thing. It's a slow motion. He throws it, and it's like, whoa. And of course, it goes straight down in the basket and everything. The most insane bullshit ever. I was just doubled over laughing when I saw that.
I'll see your basketball scene, and I'll raise you one more.
Oh, nice.
In the Cable Guy.
Yeah.
When there's, they're playing and it's prison rules and he's doing all the crazy stuff. And this is Jim Carrey, of course. But then, like, at the very end, he's like, Stevie, pass me the rock. And Matthew Broderick gets it to him right through these outstretched hands. And he's like, and then Jim Carrey does this. And he dribbles once, and you see Jack Black go, and bends over. The best part of this, so he uses Jack Black to jump up and to slam dunk, and he breaks the backboard. But the best part of this whole thing is when it cuts to a shot of Jim Carrey, and he's just like,
still on the rim. Yeah.
He's just screaming like this is the greatest moment of his life.
And it's playing Filter's
Hey Man,
Nice Shot during it. I love that scene a lot too. But from what I understand, Jim Carrey didn't know how to dribble a basketball.
Right?
They had the special effects, the dribbling the basketball in that scene. But yeah, I love that too. That slow motion does make it better, because if it was fast, it wouldn't have the same effect at all.
When he screams like a visceral scream, oh my God. And that's back in 1996 when like every basketball player between like Big Country and Shaquille O'Neal and like all these guys were breaking the shit out of backboards.
Yeah.
And so when it shatters, it's so gorgeous. I love it. The other one, I'll do one more. God, which one should I choose? I like Zombieland as a movie, but that controversial scene where they destroy a Native American gift shop to The Marriage of Figaro by Mozart. What my favorite part of that is when, obviously they're smashing the shit out of everything, but what they get perfect is that bead scene where every bead from a different color is set up in there, and they just slow motion pull that shit over Jesse Eisenberg and Emma Stone. And all those beads just satisfying cascade onto the floor so slowly. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with, in the Lego movie, when Emmett first meets Wildstyle.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
And he's like, I said if I saw anything weird, I would report it, so I'm going to have to report you. She flings her hair, and you get that little music.
And then he goes, doesn't it cut back to him, and it's still like, ooh.
Yeah, he's still doing it. And the other one I wanted to bring up is in Office Space when they beat the fuck out of the copier.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Because it's got that high intensity song,
but
then juxtaposed with the slow motion of their violence somehow lets you feel their visceral rage at this machine even more. It's not all slow-mo is bad, just like not all narration is bad. It's just an overused crutch. Okay.
Yeah. Back up in your ass with the resurrection.
I cannot.
This is a truth that's harder than an erection that shows no affection.
They want to ban us on Capitol Hill because it's die, motherfuckers, steal. Excellent restraint, Jeremy. I figured that you would immediately get erect for the train station scene in Untouchables.
Oh, well, yes. And that has a number of excellent uses of slow motion. The entirety of the Untouchables
does. Okay, we didn't even get through all the questions. We still have questions, I think.
That's right. We shoveled through some. We did some digging.
Well, we did some damage, no doubt. We did some hold-on maneuvers, did some real damage. All right. Keep going to SinCast presented by Cinemasins on Facebook. We're also on Cinemasins Twitter, Music Video Sins Twitter, Discord, and SoundCloud. That's going to do it for this week. It's Chris Atkins and Jeremy Scott and Barrett Scher. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
What'd you watch?
Card Counter.
Ooh, so we're not doing a recommend or warn. What'd you think?
I liked it a lot. It's a lot like a lot of Paul Schrader movies where
Oh no.
huh?
I said, "Oh no."
Where the thing that the person does, and I include Taxi Driver on this, where even though it's Scorsese, what the person does is not what they are and what they're focused on, and that's what the movie's not focused on that at all. I think even First Reformed was kind of like that too, where a person is not their job. They're not. It's not what they. They have the other obsessions. And
yeah, that's a good point. I never really thought about that.
And Oscar Isaac is definitely a gambler, but that right off the bat, that this movie isn't going to be about him gambling, because he says, he counts cards at blackjack. That's his big thing, and so he only wins just enough so that the casinos won't get pissed off at him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's he can already tell that it's not like in most gambling movies you're going to see where somebody's going to lose their whole life savings and they have to get it back somehow, and but Tiffany Haddish isn't very good, unfortunately.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
It's such an odd role for her. I mean, do what you do, but it just seems different, very different.
She does seem uncomfortable playing against what she would normally do in a movie. I bet the whole time she was wishing she would just let me riff a little bit, but it didn't work out that way for
they
her.
Get it on, right?
They do, but it's not. You don't really see anything.
Oh.
It's
little Oscar.
No little Oscar.
The Fugees are going on tour.
All of them?
Yeah, they're reuniting for the 25th anniversary of their album, The Score, and they're going to perform that album front to back as the concert.
I bet Lauryn Hill still looks amazing.
Oh, man, I bet she does. I thought that would excite you, Barrett.
She's a part of this, too?
Lauryn Hill, Wyclef Jean, and Praz Michael. Yeah, all three of them. That's a big deal, right?
That's a big deal. I'm probably going to find a place where they're playing and go see that.
Yeah, I figured that would be up your alley. I don't know why I thought that.
That is very good. But yeah, the score was such a weird album for me. What'd you say, 25th anniversary?
Mm-hmm.
Jeez, I would not have. So that was 96?
Yeah, it was definitely 1996.
That's when the album came out. I know the math.
You liked Lauryn Hill stuff away from the Fugees better, right?
Yeah, I think The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill is the greatest album, one of the greatest albums of the 90s. And that was 98.
But it was the Fugees that did the Killing Me Softly thing, right?
Yeah, I wasn't into commercial hip-hop. I was a fucking idiot. I wasn't into commercial hip-hop at that point. I looped them in, honestly, with like Diddy or Puff Daddy at the time, and all that stuff that I wasn't real interested in. And of course, at that point, I liked Roberta Flack more than I liked Wyclef going in like one time.
Mm-hmm.
2 times.
That was the biggest
I also
hit.
of course. I also loved Wyclef's stuff, his solo stuff, much better than I loved the Fugees.
Okay, that's a short tour. You're going to have to go to Atlanta.
We can do that.
They're going to play New York, Chicago, Oakland, L.A., Atlanta, Miami, Newark, D.C., and then they go to fucking Europe and Africa. So
I should go to Africa to see that.
That's right.
I mean, that would be a hell of a trip, but Atlanta is, you could drive there. It's a lot closer.
It's been done before.
It has. I think that would be because they're at the very edge of their primes. I think Wyclef is still something. You remember that, Chris? You probably saw that Wyclef joint that he did on Chappelle's show, the "If I Were President."
Yeah.
That really showed off his shit, man. Like his
Look at all
he's
his
Haitian.
shit.
Is he Haitian or he's from a Caribbean island? But it really showed off like that kind of reggae type of thing.
He is
And his
Haitian.
guitar. Is he Haitian? Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, I didn't give a shit about it because it was another one of those, like, why do we always pick the story where the pretty girl gets killed and that's the story that gets like months of attention, whereas there's others out there that never do.
Yep.
So I usually just kind of like whatever, but this story for some reason it pulled me in because of just that. Yeah, that stuff that's going on with.
I mean, I think it's rightly being called out that we collectively don't make as big a deal about women and children of color who go missing.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is we can only pay attention to what we are shown, and part of it is, for me, I think in this instance, the very unique situation of him arriving home alone without her and hiring a lawyer immediately. Like
the whole thing was like, hey guys. Well, I mentioned to you that it's very Gone Girly. Because he seems like he was doing the exact wrong. Two people go out there, one person comes back, lawyers up, doesn't talk to anybody, including his family. What's wrong here? There's something fucking wrong here.
I think that was what made this more interesting and gripping to the public as a whole. So I think it's probably like everything. It's somewhere in between. It's okay to be fascinated or intrigued by this case, but it's okay to be reminded that there are cases we should also pay more attention to as well. But yeah, I personally, I think I told you guys 4 or 5 days ago that I was strangely drawn by this case just because the circumstances were so weird. It's tragic.
I don't remember that. If you wrote that, then maybe that's part of the reason why I've suddenly taken it, like unconsciously taken an interest in it. But I think it's fascinating because I've seen quite a bit of these like couples doing this YouTube channel thing together type thing. And you never think about what's going on behind the scenes. You think the camera captures everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that they've been doing this stuff on Instagram and YouTube where it's like, we're going on a road trip, we're going through the West and look at how awesome this is and everything. And then meanwhile, you see an hour-long body cam video of their, that traffic stop and all that. And the weird dynamics that go on during those things. Like I'm sitting there, like hearing the cop talk and I'm like, dude, this cannot be policy to talk this way to anybody. Like I'm sitting there going, she's crying. And he's like, no, there's no need to cry. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Yeah. Like, why does that matter in this situation? Whether if to you that she's crying, like, why do you need her to stop crying is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So like, and then just, the whole thing where they just end up thinking, well, she's the one who must have been abusing him. But I don't know how they got to that conclusion at all.
I don't either. I think there's also an important difference between following the case and then this kind of ghoulish speculation.
Oh yeah.
Where like yesterday it was one of their videos they had posted while they were both still happy and alive, and he was reading the book Annihilation, which got picked up. The story was basically fiance seen days before her disappearance reading a book about women who go missing. And I'm like, that book is about fucking aliens, dude. Like, there are 4 women characters in it, but to spin this, that's just for clicks, and that's disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I haven't, I'm not tweeting about this case or anything. I don't want to inject myself into it. The certain cases just capture the nation's attention, and this one got me.
Yeah. These stories, you have to wait for months to get the entire
Yeah.
And sometimes you still don't get the
Yeah.
entire story.
Yeah, that's frustrating sometimes because, like, I remember when Steve McNair was shot. Like,
yeah.
everybody wanted to know everything about that right away because it was such a crazy story. Not only his profile, but like, hold on, what and what, and they were parasailing, and there was this and what, and he didn't get the full picture about it until a couple months later and all that stuff. But I was riveted.
I saw this movie. I think it was called The Flat or The Apartment. Low budget. Couple actors in
The Apartment.
Yeah.
Listen,
some young director named Billy Wilder.
Listen, this is real. This is a real movie. Then these yuppie white guys shared the rent of this fuck pad, basically.
Mm.
And
then
then
I know this movie.
Somebody ends up dead in there. And I when I saw that, I thought, well, that was Steve McNair inspired, right? Like,
I think it did come out after. That was like Joel Edgerton, like well.
It is Joel Edgerton. I was going to say Sean Patrick Flannery, but it is Joel Edgerton. I don't remember who else.
No, there's
Norman Reedus.
There's a couple of like well-known actors in there because I think there's like 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It could be. I actually saw that movie. It's terrible.
Movie.
It's a bad movie.
No, it was awful. I'm going to find out what it was called.
I remember after all things had been pretty much settled, too, it was that Armin Katayan kept trying to dig into it even more and saying that the Nashville police weren't being forthcoming about certain things they found and all that. I don't know where that went either. Maybe he just gave up. I don't know. But I remember him being super like pursuing a story after all was pretty much said and done.
I mean, there could be other stuff, but I mean, they're both dead.
Yeah.
I mean,
holy shit, Joel Edgerton was in a lot of shit before I knew who he was.
Mm-hmm.
He was fucking Uncle Owen.
Yeah. I can't find this fucking movie.
What was
Let's
it
not
called?
waste any more time on it.
Secret Garden.
It's called like
Flowers in the Attic.
The Apartment or The Flat.
Okay. It's probably, well, I don't know. It'd be bold to come out with a movie called The Apartment and just make some low budget fuckpad movie out of it.
Hold on. No, I have to find this.
I'm feeling the same. It can't be this close. It can't be. Where is it gonna? No, that's not. I'm gonna Google movie fuckpad.
I'm gonna get there before you. I'm gonna get there. It's
guys share apartment for sex. Oh, here we go. It's Loft. Ha!
Loft.
The Loft. I was close. The Apartment, The Flat, The Loft. Let's see who's in this. Oh God, Carl Urban.
Yeah. I tell you, there's some
James Marsden, Wentworth Miller.
Those are all the same people.
Those are all the same people. I don't see any other names I recognize. Remember when you said you were going to get there before me?
I don't see The Loft on Joel Edgerton's IMDb.
He's not in it. You were wrong about them.
Oh, he's not on there. Oh, that's fine.
He's not in that movie. It's James Marsden, Wentworth Miller, and Carl Urban. And
I see.
I was wrong with Sean Patrick Flannery, and you were wrong with Joel Edgerton.
14% on Rotten Tomatoes and 6.3 respectable, I guess, on IMDb. That movie sucks.
Yeah,
I thought it was terrible.
I remember as a kid, I don't know how old I was, like maybe 13, 14 years old or something. I went over to this guy's house and we started watching, like, I think it was Bloodsport or Kickboxer, one of those Jean-Claude Van Damme movies.
Those are the same movie.
Yeah. And his dad walked in while we're watching Bloodsport and he goes, he's like, "Hey, John, what are you watching?" And he goes, "Bloodsport." And he goes, "Is there any nudity in it?" He's like, "Well," he goes, "I think it shows his butt at some point or whatever. And he's like, okay. And he walks out.
By the way, Eric Stone Street from Modern Family is in the loft. That was the other guy that I was thinking about.
Also of Almost Famous fame, she freaked me out.
Oh, wow. There's so many. Every single person in Hollywood was in Almost Famous.
Mm-hmm.
That and Band of Brothers.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
What the hell are you waiting for? Gonna get an encore. Do you want more?
What are you waiting for? A grave invitation?
Is that that's the one that they did with Jay-Z at some point, right? They remixed and made the Gray album.
Yes.
No, it wasn't was it the Gray album that Danger Mouse did?
I actually don't remember, but I just remember it was that Linkin Park Jay-Z collaboration is all I remember.
Yeah. Gray album may have been the White album, the Metallica's Black album that Danger Mouse did. It was a whole thing. But yeah, I actually did like those remixes. I'm not a Linkin Park fan. I appreciate what they do, but I wasn't a huge fan, and I don't like Jay-Z, but I did like that alchemy.
Between Jay-Z and the Beatles and Weezer, I think every color on the spectrum has an album named after it.
You're probably right.
No, Frank Ocean did Orange. No, it was Jay-Z's Black album and the Beatles' White album.
Yeah, it's the album was called Collision Course, and it features 3 songs from Meteora, 4 from Hybrid Theory, and from Jay-Z it features 3 from the Black album, 1 from Volume 3, Life and Times of S. Carter, and 1 from Volume 2, Hard Knock Life, and 1 from Blueprint.
If he fucked me good, I'd take his ass to Red Lobster.
That's right. That broke the internet for a day.
God bless Beyonce. She can come out with raunchy shit, baby. And everybody's like, oh, Queen Bey.
Exactly.
I just broke Barrett.
Yep.
Hi. Okay, let me explain it to you this way. She's like Cindy Crawford. I recognize her beauty, but she's not attractive to me in that way. And Red Lobster is ass.
Okay.
Sorry, but Red Lobster is ass. Barrett is frozen. His internet's frozen.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Red Lobster thing. I don't know if I'm with you on the Beyonce thing.
I'm not trying to say I find her unattractive.
No, I
just saying
understand.
She does not push my buttons. I would spend my energy elsewhere.
She super pushes my buttons in Gold member.
I'm attracted to Kristen Stewart. What the hell am I doing there?
Don't know. No. I remember doing the first Twilight video. Like, I think I wrote like 20 like harsh Kristen Stewart sins on that thing. Ended up having quite a bit anyway, but like this is back in the days where we'd do the video and it'd be, like 8 or 9 minutes or whatever. And we'd start cutting things and renumbering and everything. And like Jeremy's like, I think we might be going a little bit too hard on Kristen Stewart. Now, he's completely right. Completely and totally right. But I didn't realize also he had the secret crush at the time.
Yeah.
That was during the highest tabloid era when she broke up with Robert Pattinson and started dating that dude who did Snow White and the Huntsman.
Yeah.
Or cheated on Pattinson with him or whatever. And we went super into the tabloid shit in that video. No. I don't give a fuck about what you said. No.